It's a real delight to be here in Rome today, and really delighted to be here to the ARM event, and many thanks to ARM for inviting me to speak today. It's actually quite nice to be following on from the Catapult's presentation, because we're going to talk about some return on investment for automation and digitization of advanced therapy supply chains. My name is Matthew Lakelin. I'm head of consultancy services at Trakcel. We recently sort of launched our consultancy service at the beginning of this year. And what I really want to talk to you today is just to give you an overview of Trakcel, who we are, what we do as a business. I'm going to give you some real-world examples showing orchestration system architecture, and then also provide some anecdotal evidence around orchestration-driven cost savings. So actually providing some dollar amounts on that sort of implementation of digitization, automation, and what that might actually mean from cost savings. It doesn't really cover the patient aspect, the really important part of actually managing our patients correctly and making sure the drug product gets there on time, but actually it just helps you convince your CFO to maybe put their hand in their pocket. Okay. So first of all, a little bit about Trakcel. For those of you who don't know who we are the market leader in cell orchestration systems, with the longest serving chain of identity and chain of custody as software provider. We've got the largest number of live deployments for any orchestration system. It's used for over 20 different types of therapies, different types of clinical trials. It's also used for 4 commercially available advanced therapy products. And what we're really proud of at Trakcel is that we cover a whole range of advanced therapy types. So at Trakcel, we've got a really in-depth knowledge of different types of advanced therapies, not just around CAR-Ts, but some personalized cancer vaccines, also some allogeneic therapies, both universal and matched allo therapies. And really, we take this wealth of expertise and help when we're building systems for our customers to make sure that, first of all, they're on the side of the angels when it comes to regulatory compliance, but also they're really providing those systems that the sites can use and manage correctly. And then also, because we've been established for over 12 years now, we've built a really great range of integrations with various different service providers and electronic systems that are also used in these very complex supply chains. So again, making it easier to manage these very, very difficult supply chains. Okay, so that's Trakcel. A little bit about our product. Our product is called Acellos. And really, it focuses on 2 core tenets of regulatory compliance: chain of identity management and chain of custody management. So certainly for autologous, making sure that the right product goes to the right patient, and that patient's drug product is based on their starting material and from no one else's. And then for chain of custody, knowing who's handled that product throughout its supply chain from beginning to end. This system also provides real-time updates, so it allows you to manage your supply chain in real time. Any challenges, problems, concerns that you have during the lifetime of a treatment episode, you can actually use our system to identify where the product is, where that starting materials, and potentially address any issues you have in that supply chain in real time. As part of that sort of a product, we also time and date stamp activities within the supply chain. So again, giving you that record of compliance, being able to show that you've managed that product correctly. And also something that we do with our product, which really does help introduce significant efficiencies into that supply chain, is it's about sharing information. And something that really drives efficiency into these supply chains is the scheduler that we have. It allows those sites to be able to identify when they have manufacturing slots available that will tie into the availability of their AIF centers or whatever system they're using for collecting starting material. And it allows them to efficiently program and manage patients' cycles of therapy very, very simply. And we've got some data a little bit later. We'll show you how we can really drive down the time associated with scheduling a patient. And then the product is scalable, and we have customers that have taken our software from the early stages and all the way through into commercial launch of their products. So it allows you to move through from early phase, pivotal, and into commercial launch. And you might also build out those integrations with different service providers as you move through the scale and move towards your commercialization. And we do that with an integration hub. So when we first started our company, we had sort of what we call point-to-point integrations, where we sort of develops discrete packages of code that would talk to other software systems. And really, after sort of a few years of trading, we worked out that this isn't going to scale for us as a business and scale for us as our customers. So now we've developed a middleware hub, a middleware layer that we call Integration Hub. And this basically allows us to add new suppliers, new complementary service providers into our system and allow us to exchange data securely, safely, quickly. We have a whole raft of different types of integrations at the moment with ERP providers, with MES providers, with payments verification providers and courier providers too, just to name a few. So if you're using our system and using our software, there's a good chance that you can tap into the network that we have already. And if you do have a piece of software or a service provider that we haven't worked with before, then it's relatively straightforward to build those integrations out. And what that allows you to do is to use our software to drag in data from all those different types of systems and share that information. What I will say, though, is that when you are building those integrations, when you're thinking about the data that you want to exchange, make sure you only exchange the data that's absolutely necessary. And also think about any, there's additional regulatory concerns to do with sort of a HIPAA and GDPR, especially when you're having autologous therapies where you might be using, patient name or patient date of birth as part of those identifiers. Only exchange the data that's absolutely necessary to make sure that you can manage the supply chain. And where possible, limit that HIPAA-specific data to systems where you know that you can protect and lock those in and limit access to that information. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm also heading up Trakcel's consultancy services. It's something that we started earlier this year. And really what we've found is we want to share that information and that knowledge that we've gathered over the last 12 years of working with advanced therapy supply chains. So our sort of consultancy services draws on the expertise we have in-house in our business, and we provide consultancy around chain of identity and chain of custody strategy and methodologies. So this is very much distinctly separate from the software offering that we have, and this allows customers to actually think about when they might want to start using orchestration systems, or alternatively thinking about different types of standards that they might want to employ in their supply chain to make sure that they meet compliance, and also making sure that the level of control that they have is sort of is equal to the sort of where they are in the development cycle. So in addition to that, we provide supply chain risk assessments. It's been something that we've been doing for about 12 years here. It allows you to really understand the supply chain from beginning to end, identify all areas of risks, and build mitigation strategies for all those risk areas in your supply chain. And then further to that, there's that data protection, which is such an important part of advanced therapy supply chains. We've seen some of our, some sort of customers really struggling with these concepts and struggling with how to maintain patient anonymity, but also potentially use patient-specific identifiers for identifying their drug products. So again, we provide some assistance around that, providing strategies and some very detailed advice. And that also falls into sort of label design as well, because we provide information around label design for both starting material and drug products. And then finally, which is sort of slightly off at a tangent as well for our business, but we provide some consultancy around using SaaS systems in pharma as well. What we've really seen, Trakcel's Oscillus product is a SaaS system, and when we're audited, we tend to be audited as if we're almost a GMP manufacturer, and customers come in and tend to spend a lot of time scrutinizing our quality system and maybe spending not too much time looking at our software delivery life cycle. So we're a bit of sort of a poacher term gamekeeper here. We're providing some advice on how to implement SaaS systems and how to assess SaaS systems too. Okay, so slight change of tack now. Just give you a sort of an idea of some of the sort of architecture that we've deployed for our system and for our customers. This is probably one of the most complex architectures that we've delivered for a customer, and this was for a commercially available advanced therapy product. And what we see on the left-hand side, we've got couriers feeding information to and from our Oscillus product. And what that's doing is that once a patient has been scheduled and once activities have been scheduled, we're sending information to those couriers to tell them when and where they need to collect material, either drug product or starting material. And they're feeding information back into our system around chain of custody management. But as we move across to the right-hand side, we've also got information coming into Acellus from manufacturers, from ERP systems, from CRM systems, from benefits verification. And really, Acellus is providing that sort of single source of truth and tying all that information together and processing it in such a way that individuals can really navigate their way through the process. So knowing once a patient's been recruited, if they've been approved for a particular treatment, being able to sort of get information, collate information from ERP systems from manufacturers to identify dates from when starting material can be taken, when products can be manufactured, and then providing that in a really simple, user-friendly way so that those sites that are using the system don't have to spend too much time when they come to scheduling patients, scheduling activities, and selecting dates for collection of starting material and infusion patients. And really the purpose of this slide is to sort of demonstrate that if you are developing an advanced therapy, and you're wanting to take your product all the way through to commercialization, you really need to think about your digital footprint as soon as possible. Automation and digitization does bring savings into your supply chain, but they can be very complex and take a long time to build. So it should be something that is you plan the very, very early stages of development. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we're going to focus on return on investment. We're going to give you some anecdotal evidence from a variety of different deployments, a variety of different customers at Trakcel. First one is a personalized cancer vaccine, and before they implemented our platform, they were having to sort of, for each episode of treatment for a patient, they're having to send about sort of 200 different emails, 200 different separate communications throughout their supply chain. Once they implemented our software, that reduced to just 4. So the ability to share information across a large group of people and share the correct information across a large group of people really does build those efficiencies into your advanced therapy supply chains. Next one is, this is from a CAR-T product, and before they implemented our product, about 10% of all deviations were associated with their supply chain. And they reduced that to 2%. So 2% of all manufacturing and product supply deviations were associated with supply chain after implementing the software. And typically at this particular customer, they were saying it took them about 40 hours to close out a deviation. So that's a significant saving of time by introducing automation and digitization. And this is just for supply chain as well. So if you can implement that automation and digitization into your manufacturing suite, again, there's additional savings to be made. We work with a virtual company as well. It's relatively small. They only had about 30 employees at the time when they were doing their first into-human study. But in order to sort of manage their supply chain, they had 9 of their employees, so about a third of the company were trained on how to manage the supply chain and the treatment cycles. And by implementing our software, they allowed them to sort of de-skill those 9, and only 2 people were then responsible for managing that supply chain. So again, we're showing that you can actually decrease the headcount potentially associated with logistics management and patient management by implementing orchestration systems. And then I've also mentioned earlier about scheduling and how you can drive efficiencies with scheduling with automation. And again, this is sort of really something that we see from customer to customer. This is another CAR-T treatment, and they were typically spending 8 hours on scheduling patients because patients get ill, patients need to be rescheduled, activities need to be rescheduled, manufacturing changes, cells sometimes take slightly longer to manufacture. So it was taking about 8 hours to schedule each individual patient before they implemented our software. And by implementing our software, it was taking around about 40 minutes. So again, a real-time saving there on activities. And then finally, those notifications, that ability to harmonize all activities within the supply chain. That sort of really saved about 40 hours across a treatment episode as well. So again, it's just sort of building up that picture from different customers at Trakcel, how we've sort of implemented time. Now, we tried to put a dollar value on this, so please take this with a pinch of salt, because we've collated information from different groups. but it came to something like $125,000 saved per annum when treating about 50 patients, and about $1.5 million when treating about sort of 400 patients. Now, we've sort of take this with a pinch of salt, and again, this doesn't also represent the sort of the human element about this and making sure that the drug product gets to the patient on time and safely as well. So very, very quickly now, orchestration systems can implement significant savings. Automation and digitalization will help your supply chains. Make sure you do this on a risk-based approach. Do this as quickly as possible, and the introduction of integrations will actually facilitate the efficiencies. But also make sure that you do this correctly, and correctly implementing your systems will have a direct result on your full-time equivalent spend on these managements. And apologies, I've just gone sort of a few seconds over time, so I haven't got time for questions now. But Trakcel's got a booth outside, so if you want to have a chat to me about orchestration, return on investment, digitalization, automation, please come and speak to me at the conference, and I'd be delighted to chat to you. Thank you very much.